Greetings, friends, and welcome to this edition of Tales from the Tabletop, the video series where I scour the internet and my own personal experiences to bring you anecdotes of adventure, from Warhammer to D&D and everything in between. The fun, the funny, the farcical, and the teachable moments, and I illustrate my favorite ones to share with you here for your listening and viewing pleasure. And today's story, we start out with something of a cautionary tale as to why communication is so important for DMs and players, and for GMs especially, to not get stuck in their own head while they're playing the game. So here we go. Random Widget writes, "It was a horror story, but only to my wife." She was GMing for the first time, and she had whipped up a wonderful GURPS BPRD campaign. For those of you not in the know, GURPS is an acronym from Steve Jackson Games. It is called Generic Universal Role-Playing System. BPRD is an acronym for the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Development. It's the organization that Hellboy worked for, and if you're not familiar with Hellboy, for heaven's sake, look up those comics and give them a read. Classic. Highly recommend. Those comics had a huge effect on me, and I think you'll enjoy them. The game was set in the late 30s, and we were fighting Nazis who were trying to use the paranormal to give the Third Reich the power they needed to conquer the world. Our characters were the ones who were going to stop them. The game was fun, and being higher point characters, we were mosh pitting our way through the normal guards like we were a team of John Wicks shooting our way through a nightclub. Get to the final boss, and it was a splendid fight. Tough bad guys using magic to summon ancient German heroes from Valhalla, direct attack spells, big guns, mana-powered battle armor, the works. It was epic. We won, but we knew we had been there. Battered, bruised, nearly dead, but we freaking won. While we were high-fiving each other, my wife starts to apologize. A lot. We're confused and asked her for what. She said she had messed up with how easy it was for us to kill the guards. She honestly thought that she screwed up by making the trash mobs be trash mobs. We had to remind her about the concept of trash mobs, we're all Warcraft players anyway, and how they're the appetizer for the big battle with the big bad. It wasn't until we showed her the opening sequence of Captain America Winter Soldier, where he and Black Widow tear their way through the ship to get to a small boss fight. Then she finally got it and realized that between that and the fact that we were cheering like fools, we kicked the ass of the Tool Society 9 ways from Sunday, and that we had honestly enjoyed the scenario no end. Like I said, not a horror story, but one that the GM created in her own mind, and we had to help her see that it wasn't any such thing. Now, I've had this experience kind of recently. I had some players at my table who were a little bit quiet, and I wasn't sure if that's how they were playing their characters, or if they felt like the other two players were kind of dominating with their extroversion. And I checked in later, and they're like, no, I had a great time. So, excuse me. So I sympathize with this GM. However, if I'm at a table and I can see my players high-fiving, I know they're having a good time. That's a pretty clear signal. So I'm not entirely certain what's going on here, but I'm just happy that everybody had a good time. And, sir, if you're listening, please give your wife a high five for me. And next one comes from Deleted. And Deleted writes, "Good laughs to be had in here. We were playing Star Wars, the Saga edition a few years back, the Dark Side campaign. The group was pulled out of hyperspace by an interdiction field, and a fleet of buccaneer vessels were facing us, weapons hot. We were hailed and told to lower our shields and prepare to be boarded. There wasn't much of a choice. We were taken hostage and questioned under torture with Bacta drips just to ensure our longevity. For the uninitiated, Bacta is the stuff that Luke was floating in The Empire Strikes Back when he was getting healed up from being mauled by a Wampa. In the Star Wars universe, it's an almost magical cure-all kind of serum. My fiance's character is killed during questioning, but as this was a campaign about a year and a half in the playing, her Sith had transfer essence. She decided to take over a guard at the control station we were being held in, a flying penitentiary of sorts. The transfer essence succeeds, and she takes over the guard. She uses the control panel and security feed to locate the rest of the party being held together in one of the 9 cell blocks. She rolled Use Computer to detach the single cell block, but of course, she rolls a 1, initiating the self-destruct sequence of the ship. From there, it turned into a prison riot, with lots of vulgar things happening to inmates and people dying everywhere. Next turn, she tries again to detach the single cell block, and again rolls a 1, detaches all parts of the ship from the connecting walkways. And so now we have 10 pieces of flying ship all getting ready to explode. Through some serious shenanigans, most of us made it to escape pods. The one who didn't became a force ghost and haunted the rest of us for the rest of the campaign. This next story comes from Brennan, and it is called The Called Shot. Brennan writes, I was playing a 3.5 Middle-earth game, and an innkeeper refused to let my wolf stay at the inn with me. He escorted me from the building after flashing me his steel. I was a bit miffed by this, so I made what is now simply known as the shot. I said, Called shot. I want to ricochet off of the ground inside the inn into his junk. Our DM informed me that I would need to make a natural 20 to succeed, and if I fail, all I do is put that arrow into my foot. I said, I don't care. Who the hell doesn't like wolves? I rolled that 20. I succeeded. The innkeeper dropped dead instantly. I put my bow away and walked away whistling, acting as cool as I could, even though there was a city full of witnesses. There was supposed to be this full quest line of adventures we were supposed to go on in order to get an audience with the ruler of this city, but because of the shot, we got that audience right away. In the same campaign, several weeks later, the party took an evil turn. They ended up ganking an 8th level paladin to get his nice armor and sword for a warrior friend. This paladin should have murked us, but we rolled well, and he didn't. In the end, we stripped him naked and agreed not to kill him. However, our cleric had this new portal spell and decided to put it to use, so he opened a portal below the paladin and made the exit above him. The paladin entered and exited the portal until he hit terminal velocity, and the spell expired, causing him to hit the ground and take a massive amount of fall damage. So in real life, that kind of fall damage is not smack, you're dead. That's a splat. Like a human at terminal velocity, that human goes splat. My cleric friend said, "We didn't kill him. Gravity did. So we didn't break our word." Our DM at this point lost it. I wrote so much backstory for that guy. He is so vital to the plot. Do you know what you just did? To which I replied, you mean he was so vital to the plot, him being dead now changes the entire plot? Well, I like to think that means we made a difference in the world, and I feel good about how that went down. Our next stories come from Adam. He's got a few stories for us, and they're all pretty fun, so here we go. D&D Campaign 3.5 Edition. After a bit of investigation, the players sneaked near the enemy's main camp in hopes of overhearing their plans. The rogues sneak in and manage to catch a glimpse of the leader of the army. They came back to the group with the information, and the group decided that it was worth a shot to try and snipe him. For the rest of the session, the group came up with a list of spells, items, and gear that they were going to use on the one rogue in the attempt to get her to hit with sneak attack damage. There were blessings, prayers, potions, enchantments. It was over the top crazy. I mean, this has to be some of the best teamwork I have ever seen from my players, ever. I figured out the role needed. Even at the distance they were working with, they only needed a 4 or higher to hit. Honestly, it made me afraid that my campaign would have yet another weird twist to it, because if the leader got taken out by a well-rolled sneak attack, I would have to rewrite and redo a lot of work. Lucky for me, though, they rolled a natural 1. The player misfired, dropped her bow, and gained the attention of the entire army. With no coordination, the party split up, running in random directions to not have to deal with the entire camp of soldiers hunting them. For the next session or two, the entire game consisted of running, hiding, and the players trying to find each other again. From that game on, my players have always had a meeting spot, usually back at the city or at a tavern or a shop, just in case they ever get split again. On a different campaign, this one is in a modern setting, a high-rise building in a city, I had all 60 floors mapped out and ready to play. The party started on floor 50 or so, and they knew that the police were starting on floor 1 and working their way up to find them. They made some really bad choices and got caught in a building-wide lockdown to find them. I had it all ready for them to do what they had done up to this point and fight their way out. Everything was pointing to them going all in and just making it a bloodbath. They go down a few levels, turn around, and start going up to the roof. In a series of amazingly bad ideas, they shot out a window of a neighboring building and had one of them jump from the roof of the first building into the second. It was a suicide jump. But an amazing roll made it work. They shot a rope from the roof to the room the players were standing in, so that he could tie it off and make a zip line for the rest of the group. This was 600 feet in the air, and all of the attention from the cops were on the entrances and exits, so they made it across the street and out of the building before anyone could report what had happened and the cops could react. 60 floors of a high-rise building, kindly mapped out with all the cops they'd have to kill to get out the front door, was quickly moved to the unused maps section of my binder, and we had to skip the next 2 scheduled sessions because of how behind that stunt had put me. As a GM, do you not often feel like your players are just constantly trolling you? Does that happen to anybody else? I mean, it's kind of a good sign that you're not railroading, but at the same time, it's like, oh, come on, y'all, meet me halfway on this. This next story is the one that I've been illustrating the whole time. It's a ton of fun. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it was worth the wait. Here we go. D&D 3.5. A quick one-time dungeon as a training session for new players, as well as a get-to-know-you for the group. Of this group, 2 rogues and 1 monk were the ones that really made the magic happen. They get into a room that has one, I will say again, one dire bear. And the monk's response? I can run faster than it, and I'm fast enough to dodge anything it hits me with, so I'm just going to run in circles while the two of you snipe it with arrows. Before we are able to stop him, he jumps in and starts running in circles, and the bear chases him. This results in one of the most amazing series of failed rolls that I have ever witnessed. First, Rogue readies his bow, takes a shot, rolls a 1, hits the monk. Makes a few other rolls, rolls bad, misses, and drops his bow. The second rogue readies her bow, rolls a 1, hits the monk again, makes more poor rolls, and drops her bow as well. For context, a dire bear is the size of a moving van. It is a huge creature, and they miss the gigantic creature and hit the human-sized monk twice. The rest of the group doesn't do anything. They're too busy laughing, and the bear keeps chasing our poor monk. The next round, they've got their weapons back in hand and are ready to do some damage. They both loose and score 2 damage. One of them missed. By this point, the rest of the group is laughing so hard that they skip their turns and just admit that they're not doing anything for the rest of this fight until the rogue kills the bear all on their own, leaving the monk stuck running in circles with 2 arrows sticking out of him for as long as it takes. Long story short, it took forever, but they finally killed it. The monk needed many heals. The mental image that this conjures up, because just like think a regular old brown North American brown bear or grizzly bear is huge. It is a gigantic animal, and if you ever see one of those things in the wild, there are few things in the world that'll brown your pants faster, save maybe a polar bear in the wild, which are huge. And in D&D lore, dire bears with bony protrusions on their brow are a third to twice the size of a brown bear. Just gigantic animals, and the 2 rogues can't hit it to save their life. They can hit their monk, but they can't hit the gigantic F-bomb animal. And I also love it because the hubris of just the monk. Well, I can outrun it, which in real life, humans know we cannot. We cannot do that. Bears outrun us every single time. Bears run fast as horses that just know. So just every single angle of the story is so funny to me, and I had to draw this one. It was so much fun, and I hope you had fun with it too. If you'd like the original art from this episode, then please find it on my store on my website at coffeeandhate.biz. Click store at the top. And in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. May your dice roll high and never be cursed.